Here we are inside Feedback Studio. Up here will be your student's name along with the title of their paper. You have a couple of ways to move throughout your student's paper. You can scroll through from page to page, or you can use this thumbnail over here on the left to toggle between pages. Down here, you can control the zoom feature. And you'll also notice down here on the left gives your word count and what page you are on. Up here at the top, this box is for your student's grade. At any time, you can click into this box and add a grade. Make sure that you click outside the box so that it registers and syncs. If you open up a student's paper and come in and just change the grade and then X out without having clicked outside this box, it will not sync the grade that you put in, because until you click outside the box, that is when it sets the score. So please keep that in mind. The score is not set in stone. You can always click into it and change it at any time. Over here to the right, you can see a couple of arrows, a previous submission arrow and a next submission arrow. When you have multiple students in your course, it is not necessary to click out of each Feedback Studio assignment. You can merely move from a submission to submission by going to the next submission and continue grading, or going back a paper if you need to. You also have the ability to click on this drop down here, and when you do, it will list all of your students, and you can jump from student to student, from submission to submission, and continue to grade that way if you'd like. One helpful item here, this little question mark. If we hover over that, you'll notice that is our help button. When we click on the help button, it opens up these popular articles here, such as interpreting the Similarity Report, viewing the Similarity Report, rubrics and grading forms, commenting tools, layers, view the full help guide, and join our community. If you click on the Join Our Community, you'll be able to see our community website, along with some best practices, some different discussion boards, and as well as the ability for you to provide us feedback on how we can make Turnitin a better product. Now we can take a look at our student submission. This paper is actually only one page long, but you can see already that we do have some matches. For this paper here, I just randomly chose paragraphs of different websites that had to do with global warming. That's why we see such a large match. This paragraph here I wrote just to make sure that there was part of this paper that didn't match. Obviously, your students will have a much lower score, I would imagine, than my 79%. But I just wanted to let you know that for training purposes, most of this has been copied and pasted. Our first button over here on the right, these are our layers, and more importantly, our active layers. So right now, the only active layer we have is our similarity, which is our layer here. And these are the matches that we found through our various repositories. If we click on the E-Rater layer here, you'll notice our E-Rater has already checked the paper for spelling, grammar, usage, mechanics, and style. If we scroll through, you'll see that we do have 3. Depending on the length of your student's paper, there may be more or less. For you as an instructor, like I mentioned, this is automatically done for you when the students submit. This is artificial intelligence checking your students' papers. If you click on the purple balloon or comment, you can open it up and you can see it gives a little explanation for the student. And you also have the ability to add your own comment. Your students will now be able to see your comment when they click on this purple comment balloon on their side of Turnitin. You also have the ability to format this text, and you can add links if you want to. When a student comes and clicks on their side, inside their Feedback Studio, they will see your comment, and they'll actually have the ability to click on View Handbook. And when we click on View Handbook, it automatically takes us to our online handbook, where students can take a deeper look at what they might be struggling with. If we click on Table of Contents up here at the left, you can see it's a very nice handbook that's available to them with a lot of useful information. If we jump back into Feedback Studio and down to the ETS Relator layer, you can see these are the different areas that the ETS rater checks against. And as it finds areas that the students may be having issues with, it starts to list them for you here. For instance, we have 3 examples of possible article errors. If you do not want to see certain areas, you can uncheck them and they will disappear. If we check that box again, they will reappear. Now remember, if you've watched the How to Create an Assignment video, you know that the E-Rater is an option that's available to you at the assignment level. If you do not want to see the E-Rater at all, and you don't want your students to access it or see it either, you can turn it off when you're creating the assignment by simply choosing No for E-Rater. If you choose Yes, your students will see the E-Rater and its results. If you choose No, this area here will not exist. We're going to head back up to our active layers, and I'm also going to turn on our grading layer. Now when I turn that on now, because this is a brand new paper, nothing is going to become visible. That's because we haven't added any comments or quick marks or anything like that to the paper yet. As we do so, we're going to want to make sure that we always have this grading layer activated so that when students open up Feedback Studio on their side, they'll be able to see your comments. If you are told by your students that they cannot see your comments, it may be because of 2 things. Either this grading layer is unchecked, and if so, your students will not be able to see your comments or quick marks. And when you create that assignment, you need to make sure that your feedback release date has passed. That is the date that students will be able to see your comments that you've added. If your feedback release date has not passed, that could be the other reason for not seeing your comments as well. So keep that in mind. You need to have your grading layer checked, and you need to make sure the feedback release date has passed. Okay, so we're going to jump into our grading layer here, which is the blue area here. If I click on this first, you'll notice that I have some various quick marks available to me. I also have a lot of quick mark sets that are available to me as well. You will have some quick mark sets available to you by default, such as commonly used, composition, composition marks, format. And when you open up one of those sets, you'll notice you have a number of quick marks available to you here. To add these quick marks to your student's paper, all you have to do is grab that quick mark and click on it and drag it over to the paper. Once you've added quick marks to your student's paper and you have that grading layer checked, your students will now be able to see these quick marks. And you can add these anywhere you want on the paper. And when your students click on the quick mark you've added, it will open up with an explanation. And again, you have the ability to add comments. Again, you can format them or add helpful links if you'd like. If you find that you've added a quick mark that you don't agree with, you can click on it and click the little trash can here, and it will disappear. You also have the ability inside these quick marks, if you're using a rubric, if we click on that quick mark, you can see it says Assign Criterion. I have added a rubric to my assignment, so if I click on Assign Criterion, it's going to give me the different areas of my rubric. I can then assign this quick mark to a certain area of my rubric. I will say Introduction. And as I start to assign those quick marks criterion, it will start to tally up those different quick marks for me. So when I get to my rubric, I'll be able to see what I've added to those certain areas in criterion. Okay, so again, it is just as simple as grabbing a quick mark you need and leaving it on the paper wherever you'd like. You can click on it, add your own comment, assign criterion to your rubric, and students will be able to see any comments that you add as well. We also have another option. We can actually just click into the paper itself. If we click into the paper, we're given 3 options. The first option is to add a quick mark right where we've clicked into the paper. So if I click on quick mark, you can see it gives me the same quick mark set that I have over here for format. I could change this if I wanted to, but I don't need to. I'm just going to choose that this should be bold, and if I click bold, I will insert that quick mark right where I clicked into the paper. Again, I can assign criterion, I can add comments if I wish. Our second option, when we click into the paper itself, is to leave a comment. So in this case, I can click to leave a comment, and I can say, leave this comment for my student. And again, I can assign criterion if I want to. And when I click out of it, you can see it leaves the little comment balloon behind. If I move this around, that's okay as well. It's not set in stone. When a student clicks on that comment, they'll be able to see your comment. Now our third option is, we click into the paper, is inline text. So if I choose inline text, I can actually type into the paper and your students will see whatever you've added. Okay, again, those are your three options when we click into the paper: to leave a quick mark right where you clicked, to leave a comment where you clicked, or to include an inline text where you clicked. If you find that you're creating the same comment over and over and over again, you can convert that comment into a quick mark. So if I click on Convert to Quick Mark, I can give my quick mark a name. So I'll call this Needs a Title. I'm going to choose to add this quick mark to my format set, which I'm already in, and I'm going to click Save. And now when I do that, you'll notice over here on the right, I now have a quick mark called Needs a Title, and I can drag this and drop it wherever I want. And as you begin to add your own quick marks, they will follow you from course to course, from assignment to assignment. And whenever you open up that set that you added it to, it will always be available to you as long as you have a Turnitin account with us. The other option you have for adding comments is you can actually highlight areas of the paper. So if I was to highlight, let's say, this line here, again, I'm given three options. The first is to add a quick mark where I highlighted. So I can now choose to add the quick mark improper citation. It will give my student this example here, this explanation. I can choose to have this highlighted in a different color, and this is important, especially if you're highlighting in an area that has already been highlighted. So in this case, I'll choose blue highlight. Again, I can still assign criterion if I want to. I can add my own comment as well. And when I click out of here, you'll notice that my quick mark has been added right next to where I've highlighted. Now the nice thing with this though is that if I move my quick mark anywhere on the paper, it will create a direct line to where this quick mark pertains to. So it's very nice to cut down on confusion for your students. If they're unsure where this quick mark is supposed to relate to, we create that line for them. Similarly, if we highlight here, our second option is to add a comment just like before. I can add my comment just like before. I can add criterion. I can choose my highlight. And when I click out of here, it leaves my comment right next to it just like before. But if I drag my comment elsewhere on the paper, again, that direct line has been created. Our last option here, where before it was to add inline text, our third option when we highlight is actually to strike through. So if I click on strike through, it will strike right through that paper or through that area of the paper for us. Okay, now that's how easy it is to add quick marks and or comments. If you are looking to create new sets, so you'll be given sets by default when you Turnitin for the first time, but you do have the ability to create your own sets and to load quick marks into those sets. You can do this by clicking on this little gear here, which is the Quick Mark Manager. I've covered the Quick Mark Manager in a separate video, so if you are interested in using the Quick Mark Manager, when you are done watching this video, please click on the Quick Mark Manager video to walk through that process. Our next option here is Feedback Summary. When we click on this button, you are able to leave a voice comment up to 3 minutes, and your students will be able to listen to your voice on their side of things. You also have the ability to add a text comment up to 5,000 characters, and your students will be able to access that as well. Our third button here is our rubric. If I click on that, this is the rubric that I had added to my paper when creating my assignment. And you can see here, these are the different areas of my rubric. These little balloon comments here, if I click on them, these are the different comments and QuickMarks that I assigned criterion for. So you can see that it starts to tally them up for you to make it easier to grade. It's as simple as moving the slider to the grade they deserve. In this case, 1, 2, or 3 points. If I leave it on 3, I can move to the next and continue to grade with the rubric. When I'm done, I can click Apply to Grade, and you'll see this 65 up there turn to a 77. Now again, this is not set in stone. If you think they actually deserve a couple extra points, you can click right into the score and make that change. If you don't like the slider option, you can click on this little button here to see the full-size rubric in a new window. And when we do that, you'll be able to see your rubric, and then you can click on the scores this way, in the way you might be used to already. When we expand that window, you'll see we do have an Apply to Grade button. And if I click Apply to Grade and close this out, that 79 I had before is now a 90 because it has passed through from the full-size rubric. So that is how to use the grading layer. Our next layer here, if we remember our list of layers, is the similarity layer. When I click on this button here, you can see I have a 79. That is my overall score for my similarity. If I click on that 79, we're able to see our largest matches. You'll see that they are color-coded and numbered. For instance, number 3 here coincides with this 3 right here. Now these are our largest matches. Underneath these largest matches reside sub-matches. So in this case, this number 3 match at 13%, and that percent is based on word count. This match here, this entire paragraph, matches to this internet source. Sub-matches you may find that maybe a student or another internet source or a publication possibly use just this sentence, these 2 sentences here, and that would constitute a sub-match. So if I click on this 13%, you'll see that it gives us other matches underneath. And if I scroll down, you can see it gives me a number of matches. From students' papers, in this case, Phoenix High School District, used these portions of this paragraph here that are highlighted at 12%. If we scroll down, you can see it gets down to 8%. This student here at William Amos Howe High School used just these certain areas. You'll notice that it lets you know when it matches to submitted papers, as well as internet sources, as well as publications and journals. If I go back to my match overview and this larger match here, which is this bottom highlight, I can take a look at these smaller submatches. Again, student papers. We have over 800 million student papers in our repository from across the globe, and you will start to see students' papers from all over. Here's a student paper that used this 43% here. Here's an internet source that also used this information as well. If we scroll down, you can see there are a lot of matching all the way down to the 1% mark. In this case, I clicked on this internet source, and you can see it actually shows me what has matched to this internet source within the context of the article itself. If I click on this button here to see the full source view, it's going to show me the entire article, and again highlight those areas that were also copied. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you start to see your students' matches, we're never going to tell you that something is actually plagiarized. Okay, that is up for the instructor to review and decide. If students have, for instance, this student here to South Dakota State University had used this portion of that paragraph, if they have cited it correctly, is most likely not plagiarism. We are simply showing you what matches in our various repositories. It is up for the instructor to decide what is plagiarism or not. Okay, and you can see down here, here's actually a publication where they used the small amount from that original source. Now, if I have found some smaller matches that I'm just not interested in as an instructor, I can exclude sources if I want to. And if I exclude those, they will drop off our list. They are not gone, however, we can always include them again if we want to. So this is our match overview. These are our largest matches. Our next option here in the similarity layer is our all sources view. And if we could click on this, you can see we have a large list of matches. Every single match, every sub-match that you can scroll through. Anytime you can click on one of those matches and view where it matched. In this case, to Shanghai. All the way down to the smaller percents. Again, you can exclude sources if you'd like, and those will drop off our list. Our third option here are filters and settings. So as you can imagine, a research paper would probably have a much higher similarity score than that of a creative writing assignment. And the reason for that a lot of the time is because of quotations and bibliography. If you were to exclude quotes, you can do this two ways. You can do it on the assignment level. When you're creating your assignment, you can exclude quotes, and that will affect every student that submits a paper. The system will not check for similarity for anything that falls within quotes inside the paper. You can also do the same for excluding bibliography. And what that means is that the system will not check any words that follow the words bibliography, references, or works cited, for example. And those will not be checked for similarity as well. So if you find that it is a research paper that you have assigned and the score seems quite high, you could come to your filters and settings, exclude the quotes, exclude the bibliography, apply those changes, and run a new report, and you'll most likely see that score drop probably pretty dramatically. You also have the ability to exclude sources. So if you remember when we were looking at our source list, we got down to the 2, 3, 1% range. If you don't want to see any sources, for example, that are 5% or less, you could choose to exclude 5% or lower matches, and those would drop off the list. Keep in mind, percentage is a word count percentage. So if you have a 1,000-word paper and I exclude 5%, that's 50 words. That may be a considerable match that you would like to see. I typically say stick with the word count. Maybe you don't need to see 4-word matches or less. That's usually pretty safe to cut out some of the noise that may come along with smaller matches. Now again, this is all available to you on the assignment level when creating the assignment, but you can also filter out these items here on a paper-by-paper basis within Feedback Studio. Okay, I'm going to uncheck these because I don't wish to do any filtering at this time. Our last button here is excluded sources. So if you remember when I was looking at my source lists, I had excluded some sources. They fall here. I could click Restore All and they would all fall back into our lists, or I can come in and choose them individually and click Restore, and they will drop off our excluded sources list and go back to our source list. Okay, that's how easy it is to take a look at your students' scores and their various matches. We already talked briefly about the ETS e-rater. It's very simple to use. Just please keep in mind that this is something that you'll have to make sure is turned on when creating your assignment. Other than that, there's nothing else you need to do other than to take a look at what areas or issues those students are falling into and checking to make sure that you agree with the e-rater comments. If you don't agree with an e-rater comment, just like with our QuickMarks or comments, you can click on them and dismiss them, and they will drop off automatically. Lastly, we have down here a gear button. And it has two items for us. Our submission information, if we click on that, it gives us a nice page, a nice view of our submission ID. Keep in mind, this is very important. If you or your student needs to create a tech support ticket with us, you will want to include your submission ID. Like I mentioned before, we have over 800 million student papers in our repository, and it's very difficult to find certain submissions without our submission ID. Lets us know our submission date, our file name, extension, word count, page count, and also the ability to learn more about our iOS app. Okay. Our next item here is our download button. If we click on the download button, we're given three options. First is the originally submitted file. So if our student had submitted their paper in a Word file, document format, we can download that originally submitted file without any of our comments or any highlights, just the originally submitted file. Our next option here is the download button. If we click on that, we're given three options. First, we can download the originally submitted file. In this case, if a student had submitted a Word document, we could open up that Word document without any similarity, without any comments, just the originally submitted file. We also have our digital receipt. If we click on that and open it up, it will actually give us all the information we just previously saw, such as word count, submission ID, but in a printable form. And then our last option here is our current view report. What's great about the current view report is this creates a comprehensive document that includes all of our comments, all of our QuickMarks, all of our matching, and our rubric. You as the instructor can create a current view report, and your students can do this as well inside Feedback Studio. All you or your student has to do is click on Current View, and it will prepare a download. Now this paper is only one page, but when we open up this document, you'll see that it has created a 7-page document that includes everything that we've just covered. So the first page here is our student's submission, the title and by the student. Here's our submission information that we had saw before. Here's our student's paper along with all of our comments and QuickMarks and highlights. Here's our originality report that includes our overall score, and then where we match to from our various repositories, and our largest matches. Also lets us know if there are any exclusions that we may have turned on or off. Here's our final grade, as well as the comment that we had added. And page by page, a list of the QuickMarks, ETS E-Rater comments, and any strike-throughs or comments that we have left as well. And then lastly is our rubric and how our students scored in that rubric. So you can imagine this is a great paper that a student could print up and bring to the writing lab or bring to a tutor or possibly to office hours to discuss where they might be struggling. Now again, that was found in Feedback Studio under the download button and the current view report. One last thing I'll show you as well is our text-only report. If you have assigned a paper that maybe includes images, please keep in mind that our system cannot check images for similarity. It can only check for text. So if you do have a paper that includes a lot of images, but you really just want to focus on all the text, you can click on the text-only report here, and we'll bring you into our text viewer, and it will only show you text. So again, you can see your similarity score, your largest matches, and the text only. If you want to go back to Feedback Studio's document viewer, we can click on that, and it'll bring us right back into Feedback Studio. Thank you very much for watching this video. I really appreciate your time.